Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Fernandez, so I'm a student of Tara Institute. I've been coming to Tara Institute for over 35 years, I think, pretty much from the mid-80s. And I've mentioned this before, I've had very good teachers, so His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Khyab Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and of course the resident teacher Geshe Doga, the Venerable Geshe Doga. So what I'll impart tonight and maybe over the next 3 weeks really comes from them. So if I start quoting them, you'll know why. I've got other teachers, and you learn from everyone, but they're the main three. So hopefully that can give you some confidence that some of the words will make sense. Okay, so just relax. So for the next hour. So if you've got a mobile phone, which I don't think anyone hasn't got one, but could just put it to silent for the next little while. I start usually at the teachings on Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursdays. Whenever we have teachings courses, we usually start with generating a good motivation and taking refuge or safe direction. So that's a Buddhist practice. So the first part about generating a very good motivation, it's actually in the red prayer book called on page 2. So I'll just read it out and then I'll just elaborate a little bit on what it means, because it'll give you some insight into what a Buddhist approach is to refuge, etc., and generating good motivation. So I'll read it out. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly. From the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and other perfections, may I attain the state of a Buddha to be able to benefit all sentient beings. So the first part, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened. So it's really pointing to human potential, so that we as humans, particularly in this particular continent and with all the favourable conditions that we have this ability to achieve this state of full enlightenment. So that might come up in as we go forward as to what that actually means. But if, in a nutshell, if you're talking about happiness, and it's like a state of permanent happiness. So an unafflicted, perfect, permanent happiness that can't be destroyed or deteriorated in any way. So that's the Buddhist beliefs. One of the core beliefs is that a human being in this continent, with all these favourable conditions, can utilise that potential to achieve that fully enlightened state. So if we look around at each other, that's you and it's everyone else in the room. So that's quite important to have that idea, so that we're not like, well, it's her or him, but not me. So we all have that potential. So even little animals and insects and other beings have that potential. So it's important to remember. But the human rebirth that we have allows us to make use of it to achieve that state. So it's quite important from that point of view. The next piece of the prayer is I'm going for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest assembly. So we rely on the Buddha as the historical being, and also the Buddhas that have followed, to provide us with that, if you like, example of that state. So if there wasn't a Buddha, then what I'd be talking about would be purely hypothetical. Does everyone understand that? So if a human being couldn't achieve Buddhahood or never achieve Buddhahood, then what's the point? So we have the historical Buddha who did achieve Buddhahood, but we also have many beings who have done that. So male and female, so doesn't no different. So that's important to remember as well. So we have that Buddha state. The Dharma. So the Dharma is, in this case, the teachings. So the teachings can be the texts, what's given to you verbally as a teaching, And also, when you develop, the actual Dharma is you. So your own wisdom becomes activated or cultivated. So you become the Dharma. So your ability is increased to be able to help others. And the Sangha, the highest assembly, so they're referred to as the spiritual community. So usually it's referring to monks and nuns in a monastic community. But also we could include lay students as well in that. So it's really your spiritual friends or helpers. So you need those along the way. So it would be great if you could just go, oh well, I can just study and I've got good teachers, but I don't need anyone else. You know, that you could just be like an island. But usually I think we're quite social beings, so we actually develop by interacting with each other. So that the spiritual community, in this sense, they play that useful role for us. And then the next paragraph is really, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and other perfections, maintain the state of Buddha, to be able to benefit all sentient beings. So you see that the scope of that motivation is very wide. So we're talking about, I'm going to benefit all sentient beings through all these practices like giving, etc. So is that an easy motivation to have? Spontaneous? Does it come up for everyone that, oh well, yeah, that's me, I've got that, and you're shaking your head. Okay, so it's at the beginning it's not easy because it's like, oh well, I can say the words, but I've got no capacity, so I can't do it. But there's two levels of this altruistic intention. One's a very contrived one, where you could be saying the words and sort of forcing it a little bit, and the other one is it's called a more spontaneous mind of enlightenment, where it instantaneously, spontaneously, joyously arises all the time, that you have this sort of mind that you're working for others' benefit. So the contrived one helps you get to the spontaneous one. Some people have got that very spontaneous mind of enlightenment. So they're very fortunate. So, but for those of us who haven't, we can just follow their example a bit and say the words and try and establish a good motivation. And what happens over time is, as your mind gets used to something, it becomes easier. So that's a truism in life, isn't it? That really, if something's difficult at first, impossible, if you practice it, then eventually you become familiar with it. It becomes a little bit easier. So that's the motivation at the beginning, the refuge and bodhicitta. So what are some things we could practically motivate for? You know, like, is there any suffering or unhappiness going on in the world at the moment? Yep, there's a bit, isn't there? So we've got, in our own backyard, we've got all the fires. We've got the coronavirus. And where was that? Yeah, where was that man? There you go. Is it a relative of yours? Close friend. So it's a young lady, 42, who's got a brain aneurysm, and it's not expected to last the night, or? Yeah. So, and she's got 2 children, huh? So there's a lot of people suffering. So we can think of them, all those people and animals, etc., except impacted by the fires, all the beings that are in this pandemic, etc. That's sort of denied. It's not a real pandemic because we're not broadcasting it, but this is in China I'm talking about. But it really is something very serious because no one knows how to stop it or treat it. So. And then that young lady too. So it's just very tragic. So there's lots of people. We know probably ourselves people who are suffering, who are unhappy, or things are not going so well for them. So we can have that feeling for them. So even as we're doing the hour of meditation and listening and thinking about we can be thinking about those people as well, all those beings, and then at the end we'll dedicate. So we're directing all that positive energy we've created to them. So, which is very good. So, has anyone not been to Monday nights before? There's a handful. Has anyone been to Jeremy's talks the previous 2 weeks? Oh, keep your hands up, please. Thanks. Oh yeah, good. Okay, excellent. So Jeremy spoke about developing the mind of love and the mind of compassion using equanimity as its basis to counteract the self-cherishing mind. Yep. Okay. So that's a hard act to follow. So it's sort of this is quite in depth. So, but I'll add a little bit though, just to that. His Holiness recently gave some teachings in India, and he said that there's two enemies. He's saying, first is the self-cherishing mind, and the second one is this self-grasping. So they're very closely linked, and I won't talk very much, if at all, on self-grasping, but self-cherishing is that mind of me. I'm the best. I deserve everything. It's happened. Everything fortunate happened to me. I don't care about others that much as long as I'm happy. So it's a very self-centred type of mind. So His Holiness said, that's the enemy. So you've got to counteract that one. He's saying if you want happiness. So is that true? Yeah? Does anyone say no? No? Right. Okay, so there are a couple of Buddhist paths that don't get rid of self-cherishing, but they get rid of this self-grasping, and they achieve liberation. So they're completely out of suffering. But those paths are not what we're talking about at all. We're talking about removing the self-cherishing, ultimately removing the self-grasping, and then working for the benefit of all sentient beings. So right at the beginning, we're establishing that very high motivation that His Holiness is talking about as the means to achieve happiness for ourselves and for others. And I think that's Jeremy's point, isn't it, really? If you develop love and compassion through equanimity, then the self-cherishing will diminish. Whose happiness will increase? Did Jeremy say? Who? Both, yes. So the results are for both. So even though, here you go, have this, and that selfless, those selfless acts, the actual beneficiary is yourself, even though you're acting out of sort of a pure motivation for others. So the benefit does spin back onto you. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of breathing meditation. So does anyone want to know why I'm in a chair? Yep. So I've torn the meniscus or something, which is like a little ridge of, I think, cartilage that goes around the kneecap. Anyway, I don't know how I did it. And so the physio is scratching his head going, well, how did you do? I said, I don't know. And he didn't know. I said, I did this and I did that. And he said, no, that won't explain. Anyway, I've done it. So it's healing, but I'm sitting like this. So I feel very cosy, actually. It's sort of a bit different. Normally I'm on the cushion. So it's, anyway. But anyway, getting back to meditation. So why I've mentioned that, for meditation, you can be sitting in a chair, sitting on a cushion. So you can be lying down in bed, but that's a bit more tricky because the tendency is to nod off, isn't it? So, but sitting in a chair is good. So cushion. So the main thing in our tradition is you have your back straight. So it's back straight, and then your right hand's on top of the left, like that, and then your thumbs are touching, and then you're pointing it back, touching back towards the navel. So like that, like that. Oh, sorry. Okay, so like that, and so the thumbs touching back towards the navel. There's a couple of things. Geshe Doga's indicated it generates this inner warmth or heat in the navel. Just so you actually you see your belly buttons here. You're actually touching maybe a point, a couple of centimetres underneath it, like that. So it generates this warmth or heat, and it also generates some love as well. So it's very good if you can adopt that. And that's not a difficult pose. It's not like the lotus posture or something where you have to contort yourself. This is quite easy. And then your arms, if you can, they're not like that. They're more out. So you're letting the flow of air go through. So that's quite important as well. And we're going to be breathing through our nostrils. So our mouth's closed and our eyes are just barely, sort of half open, half closed, just to allow the impression of light in, but not totally open that you're distracted, and not totally closed that it's easy to fall asleep. So if you like, you're directing your gaze, if you like, at sort of towards the bridge of your nose, or like a 45-degree angle. But you don't need to have a real acute, because you'll go a little bit cross-eyed. So just sort of gentle gaze like that. Okay, and then so we'll just do that for a few moments. So the focus for this meditation is breathing. So it's a relaxation meditation. So what we're going to do is, as you're breathing in, you can breathe in this enlightened energy. So that can be in the form of light or colours or just a feeling, so depending on whether you're visual, etc. So breathe it in gently through your nostrils, and then as you breathe out through your nostrils, same again, just all the tension and worries and concerns go out. So we'll do that for a couple of minutes. So just gently breathe in and out. And if you find your attention's sort of wavering, just bring it gently back to the breath. Don't force it, just gently bring it back to the breath. So back and forward, and I'll just turn the mic off for a couple of minutes. Okay, so just when you feel comfortable, bring your attention back to the room and open your eyes. So for some of you, you might have felt some immediate effect or relaxation, and for others it might have been like a battle, like, oh well, I want to focus on the breathing, but I've got things to do tomorrow, and I'm meeting this person. So people have different experiences. Geshe Doga, he teaches this on Wednesday night, but he's indicated that this breathing meditation is very effective in reducing the discursive thoughts. So discursive thoughts are what seemingly random thoughts that pop up into our mind. So even when we're trying to focus on one thing, it'll be like, I'm hungry, I've forgotten my keys, I've got things to do, I'm meant to be meditating. So there's a sort of, looks like an unrelated sequence of thoughts that pop up. And Geshe Doga has indicated that why these discursive thoughts are unhelpful is they eventually lead to an afflicted mind. So would anyone like to tell the group what any type of afflicted mind that could arise when you're thinking like that? What's that?
Is it like delusions like anger or
Yes.
jealousy?
Yes. Yeah, anger, jealousy, attachment. So I mentioned my lunch. So there's Mark's meant to be meditating, but he's thinking about that nice sandwich he can eat. There's sort of so that's the danger. And but the breathing meditation, as Geshe Doga has indicated, it's very good at reducing those discursive thoughts, and therefore the afflicted minds don't arise, or they don't get an opportunity, in effect, because you're doing that meditation. So initially that's a temporary thing, because you think, well, I'm only meditating for a short time, and then once I'm out of meditation, those discursive thoughts will arise, and so will the afflicted minds. But what happens is that the mind, as the body's relaxed, the mind becomes more relaxed, more pliable. You're able to direct it better. And then you can focus on the breath or whatever other meditation you want to do, and you develop what's called the peaceful mind. So your mind is filled with peace. So that peaceful mind is called a happy mind. So it's not happy because you won Tats Lotto or you're wealthy, beautiful, whatever. It's internal, so purely internal. So you're going, well, so if you can develop that mind, you're on the way to getting to that state of that indestructible, enlightened mind. So the first step is through meditation. So if the lady mentioned anger, could you walk through that?
Sure.
Like you were meditating, and then all just give us a sequence of how it could happen. Just hypothetically, we're not saying.
If I think about something, how someone's wronged me, and then I'll be focusing on what they've done, and then that generates the feeling of anger, which then means I'm not experiencing peace, counteracting the positive thought. Yeah, I guess and then I'll just go on a train of thoughts of, woe is me, or feeling negative constriction.
Yep. Yeah, that's a very good example. So it's I'm trying to meditate, and then all of a sudden I've been wronged, and the person has done this, and you sort of keep you micro focus on how they've done you wrong, and you keep going. It sort of perpetuates itself. Huh? It's got its own energy, and then you can't even get out of it. So there's no I can't bring my mind back to the breath or anything positive because I'm consumed by this anger. So the thought of someone wronging me. So that's a really good example. So anyway, the breathing meditation helps you to sort of start to cut it a little bit, which is very good. So you develop that through meditation, and the meditation relies on meditation. They call it the meditation a wisdom tool. So you're cultivating some sort of mental development through meditation. So there are two other wisdom tools that come before the meditation, which you need. You need to have them in a sequence. So would anyone like to say what those two are, the other two wisdom tools? First one's listening. So listening, so you have that. You have to have that. If you haven't got that step, then you can meditate till the cows come home. It won't have any impact on you. So you have to have some ability to listen or hear, or so that's important. And then the second one following that one is thinking about. So ruminating, mulling things over. So you have to have that step. So listening, and then thinking about, and then meditating. So you have that sequence, and it is a sequence. And if you have that, if you can go through that sequence, well, I'm listening, that makes sense. I'm thinking about it, yeah, okay, I'll do it. I'll do the meditation, or I'll do whatever the action is that you've been thinking about, etc. So in Buddhism, that's very important. It's your own three wisdom tools. So the teacher might be there saying, here's the teachings, but if you're not listening, you won't adopt them, huh? And if you're not willing to think about them, then you won't adopt it. And then if you try and just do the meditation and you haven't done the first two steps, it won't be as effective, if at all. So it's quite important. So it's very important to have that for yourself, that you're listening, thinking about, and meditating. So, and then it's very good. So then if you do that, then the meditation, the breathing meditation itself, because you're firmly convinced of its merit, the merit of it, you're more likely to do it. Okay, so that's important too. So how often should you do meditation? Say breathing meditation. How often should you do it, and for how long? Twice a day for 20 minutes. Yeah, that's good. Anyone else? That's good. Yeah. No. So twice a day for 20 minutes would be fabulous, if you had the time. So if you have the time and inclination to do it, that's really good. But they say it's better to do it consistently, and for beginners to do it for a shorter period, rather than, well, I've been going for an hour, 2 hours, the clock's going and I'm still here, I'm still sitting, it's not that. You'll do that for maybe the day, and then the next day you'll say, forget it, it's too hard. They say it's better to do short meditation for beginners, and then almost you're feeling good, almost stop it there. So then the next time you've got that, that was productive, and I got something out. So then you're likely to go back. But Geshe Doga talks about his students, not me, but his students, who now they used to struggle with meditating for a few minutes, but now they can go for half an hour, they can, and it's productive meditation. They're not daydreaming, so they're actually focused and So is having a really focused mind just good for meditation? Is it useful for any other activity? Yes? No? Yeah? Yeah, for everything, yeah. So if you could say, well, I'm doing, what am I going to do? I'm going to do my taxes or something sort of mundane. And instead of going, well, I've started it and then something better's come up, I'll leave it. You actually can go and finish the task. You probably get it done really quickly and more efficiently than if your mind's scattered, you'll jump out. So it applies to everything. The benefits are there for every activity if your mind is focused, not just while you're meditating. So that's very good. And if your mind's at peace, and I'll cover this in future weeks. So one of the benefits of the meditation and breathing meditation is that there are spin-off benefits outside of meditation. So that's very good. So it's not just while you're sitting or formally meditating, but outside of it, meditation there is a spin-off benefit, and one of them is you have a slowing down of stimulus and response. So the person who makes me angry has just come in front of me. So the length of time that for the anger to arise, instead of it being instantaneous, you've got this sort of gap because of the spin-off benefit of the meditation. So that gap allows you to be a bit more in control. So you don't have to react sharply or with anger straight away, because that's been dulled a little bit through the immediate sort of afflictive response of anger has been just toned down a bit through the meditation, and you've got this little bit of clarity, this window, and says, well, I'm angry. And then you can apply the antidotes. You've got a little bit of space and time to do that. So that's very important as well. So that's the organic development of the mind at work through the meditation. So it doesn't happen straight away, but that's one of the effects, is this cognitive space that occurs through meditation. And then once you see that, you might find it doesn't just apply to anger, it applies to jealousy as well, or attachment, hatred, whatever. All the things that drive you crazy, you go, well, you've got a little bit of sort of space there. So that's a good benefit, I think. So and then just coming back to the motivation, because your motivation was so good at the beginning, you have this feeling of not being threatened by someone so much. You're not viewing the world through a defensive sort of mindset. If you can hold that good motivation, you're a little bit more on the front foot, positive, and when you develop it, this is the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and other perfections. So they're talking about the being who wants to achieve enlightenment for all sentient beings. Once you've developed that motivation, you start to view other people, all beings, as your friend. So that's something different. So there's not a conflict going on in that the person that's going to appear before me is a potential enemy. I better be on my guard. So you've turned it around so that person is a friend. So whether they treat you well or not, you still have that So that protects you as well, having that mindset. And so in terms of what Jeremy was talking about, love and compassion, so in terms of love, it's wishing for, in Buddhist context, so this is wishing for all beings to have happiness. That's love for them. For in the Buddhist context, love. So, and compassion, in the Buddhist context, may all beings be free of suffering. And then equanimity. So Jeremy described that equanimity. So this equanimity is, well, the basis of the two, love and compassion, they're based on equanimities. It's having an equal feeling of affection for all beings. So you lose that strong friend, enemy, stranger sort of mindset that we naturally have. We put people into pigeonholes. I know that person really well, they're a friend. That person I don't like, for enemy. That person I don't even know, a stranger, I couldn't care less. So you lose that. So then everyone who comes before you is a friend. So, So if you have that, then you're immediately turning away from that self-cherishing mind, because you're viewing the person differently, and you're more likely to reach out to benefit them. So if you did that, then if you talk to that person, are you going to talk to them with a, oh well, I'll tell you what to do, and or is it going to be more of a, oh, how are you and what's happening, and so you can see, you can go in with the all guns blazing, I'll tell you what's going, very sort of, or you can be, how are you, what's going on, tell me what's happening, and what you'll notice is that the person who you're talking to, you're interacting with, they'll respond to you because of the way you approach them. So, now why is that? Is it because they're not interested in you, they're interested in you talking about them? It's something a little bit deeper. It's your concern for them sparks something in them. So that's really quite intriguing. So it's sort of like, and that's the human connection there, that interaction at work. So it's quite valuable to do. If you can do it, you go, and then, okay. Oh, Jane, she's a fabulous listener. I love talking to her because she listens to a lot. It becomes like that. So, now, can that be developed, or is that sort of, you're born with that skill? Can be developed, yes. I agree with that, yes. So, and it gets back to my point, things that appear difficult, impossible to begin with, if you practice them, you can develop them. So there's something you can develop. So it all starts with the breathing meditation, but it'll impact your interactions with others, and it'll make them more favourable for both the other person and yourself. So I work in, I'll give you an aside, I work in two different places. One's a medical clinic and one's a jewellery shop. So no plug, so please, not a plug, but so there's two different types of interaction. One's with patients coming, I'm not patient fronting, so I'm back of office, so I'm doing admin and HR and numbers and all that. So, but I can see the interaction at play. So there's the receptionist that the patient will see right at the beginning, come in for their appointment. There's the doctor, what they'll see. There's potentially the nurse as well. There's also psychologists and there's allied health professionals. So there's that whole interaction, dynamic there for the patient. And what I've noticed is they take an active interest in the patient. Oh, hello, how are you, Jack? And welcome back, and how are things going? And, good to see you, take a seat, all that. And then the doctor will go, what's happening? Okay, and then, so that and the nurse is the same. So that bedside manner, if you like, it's compassionate work, because they're in what we call the caring profession, huh? So it's quite good, isn't it? Anyway, that's my observation. It's very good. It's not contrived. They've actually developed it over time, and it's beyond contrived now. It's very natural and very, in its own way, healing of the patient. They're helpful to the patient. So that's very good. So, and then in my role in the jewellery shop, it's people coming in to buy beautiful things and wanting to be happy with those things. And I'm the intermediary, so I'm going, oh, this looks fabulous. Try this, and then, well, that looks, so there's a bit of that going on. But it's the same thing. I'm from my side, I'm not as good as the nurse or the doctor, etc. But I'm trying to not harm them, and I'm trying to help them do what they've come in to do. So, so both are quite different roles. But again, whatever role you have, you can flip the switch, and you can make it, if you like, a path to happiness for the others and for yourself. So whatever you do, whether you're working, not working, or you've got a few jobs, one job, what doesn't matter. So anything's possible with the human form. So now I've been talking for a while. Is there any questions?
I'm troubled by, unlike the sentiment, may all beings be free from suffering. I'm just troubled by, I'm thinking, that's just an unrealistic goal. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, so
it seems just too enormous to
yep.
focus on that sentence. Sure, I want all beings to be happy. I want them to be free from nothing. That's impossible. It's just not going to happen.
Okay, so just for the camera, that question is the impossibility of all beings being happy or free from suffering because of the enormity of the number. Yeah. Okay. And perhaps maybe one Buddha. Can one Buddha free all these beings from suffering and bring them into happiness? So, this is my understanding, is that there are beings achieving Buddhahood all the time. So, and the capacity of those beings, formerly human beings to become Buddhas, they've got these fabulous powers, so they can manifest in different forms to help sentient beings. So it's not evident to me. I can't see them, but I've been told. Okay, so you can appear as a bridge for those who need it. A boatman for those who need a boat. A helper for someone who needs help. So it sort of can. This is what they say. It can happen. It's a very good question, though, because if there are this comes down to cosmology now. If there are infinite beings, will there be a time when all of them become enlightened? If the number's infinite. So, has anyone got an answer to that one? Anyone like to hazard a guess to whether that's possible? If the number's infinite, can you reduce it to zero? No? Yes?
Because it isn't infinite. It's one.
It's one being.
One.
Not sure if it's one. Anyway, that's one of the questions the Buddha didn't answer. So he was asked a few questions, and he wasn't like me and tried to answer. He demurred and said, not answering. Yeah, he just kept quiet, kept mum about that one. So, but I've tried to work it. I've gone, well, once you become a Buddha, whatever form, male, female, you won't stop working for sentient beings, even if it's seemingly impossible. You use all your wits, all your skills, all your powers, whatever. You'll keep going forever. That's your aim. So even you think, oh, the number's too big, I can't do it, you just keep going anyway.
But
So,
I think for the general layperson,
mhm.
you wouldn't be aiming for everyone. You'd probably try and make it workable with the people that you know or you come in contact with, rather than thinking everybody.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes impossible.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a very good question on the scope of your meditation, or even if your practice is to deal with the people around you, the people close to you, the people who are interacting with you. So if you can work on that, then you can spread your scope out wider. So now you can have compassion though for those you don't know. Like there's people in China, with the coronavirus. It's like, well, the government's saying it's not a problem. So if they say it's not a problem, it's not a problem, huh? Because they're not broadcasting, they're not publicising it, so it can't be a problem. But obviously, then there are other people who are dying of it, and they don't know how to treat it. So you can still have, even if you don't know them, you still generate that strong compassion for them. And same for the people in the fires and the animals in the fires. Like, we've got a friend, haven't we, Lynn, who's up there in Merimbula. So it's like Malakuta got burnt, Gippsland got burnt, and then she's put on Facebook this fire's like 50 kilometres, and she can see the fire. So it's terrible for her, terrifying. You go. So if you like, unfortunately, she's my main source of on the ground. What's it like? And it's terrible. So immediately, like, you feel something, even if you go, oh well, I'm so far geographically removed from that, I can still feel something.
Although some poor children who were
Yeah. So the 4 children got. Does everyone know that story? That the 4 children got hit, run. Guy went on the wrong side of the road deliberately. Was it 0.12 or something, or
it was 3 times.
so 0.15 or more? So again, and he was a serial offender. He wasn't like made a mistake. He's done it before. So anyway, three kids from one family, and their cousin. So one was a boy, and the father said, he was a really good soccer player, and a really good team player, and everyone loved him. His daughter, he said, she's real. He didn't say diva, but I think that's what he meant. She was the star of the show. That was the daughter, and then the third one was his daughter, the other daughter, the apple of his eye, and the fourth was their cousin. So again, but the mum came out and said, "I forgive the driver." So again, there's something going on there. So anyway, it's very hard to do. I'm not saying, that's easy, but anyway, there's a tragic event. So we can have compassion or love coming up, even if it's people we don't know. Because I think quite often we think we're a bit robotic at times. That won't affect me. That doesn't affect me. I went to a wedding last week. So it was my son's friend. He's 31. He got married. Been going out with this girl from about 12 years. So I started, tearing up. It wasn't my wedding. I was tearing up. I was thinking, but I thought, well, that shows there's some movement. Like there's some feeling of affection going on. So I thought, well, that's good. A good sign. It's a good sign. It's not like, well, I can go through that and nothing. Won't affect me at all. But it actually did. I thought, it was very moving. I was very happy for them. Obviously, I wasn't crying because of sadness, just because of happiness. So it was very good. So then I go, well, all right, that's for those people I know, and that's your point. You can generate it for those people you know, but you can extend it out. So we shouldn't be limited by, well, just my immediate family or friends, because if you went to Jeremy's this talk on equanimity, that's the mind of equanimity tries to view all beings as you're equally affectionately, whether they're in your sphere, friend, enemy, stranger. You try and get rid of those labels, but then you spread it out Yeah, all beings, all in Australia, everyone in Australia, everyone in the world, all the animals, etc. Everything, anything beyond that. So you just, and if you can do it. So that's because that's the capacity of the mind. Again, that's mind blowing in itself. You think, well, how can one person have that feeling for everyone? Because there's so many of us. So you go, but can be developed. So that's quite inspiring. I think that's quite a good thing to think about. Okay, could my mind be developed to that extent that there's that love and compassion for all beings flowing out? So, does anyone have any other questions? That was a very good one, actually. So, no? Okay, I think we'll finish there because we'll do a little bit of meditation and then we'll dedicate. So we'll dedicate for that young lady Archie, who's got the brain aneurysm, and the life support's being switched off. We'll dedicate for the coronavirus, the poor people in China and other places where they don't know how to treat it, and they're just doing their best to try and survive it, really. So, and then the people in the fires. So Australia's, particularly the East Coast, we're not out of the woods yet, are we? So it's sort of like we're still in the hottest month now, February. So it's like we just have to hope that and pray that it doesn't get any worse, that things can turn around. So anyway, we'll do a meditation. So same posture as before, just nice comfortable posture, back straight. So again, your thumbs touching, fingers pointing back towards the navel, your eyes sort of half open up shut, and you're breathing through your nose, your nostrils again. So just for a few breaths, we'll just focus going in and out. So relax the body and the mind. And then visualise in front of yourself a person who makes you angry, who pushes your buttons. And instead of just letting the anger towards them rise, just try and flip it around and start and think, does that person want and deserve happiness? Do they want to be free of the suffering that they're in? And you might see that there are particular reasons why they're unhappy. And by thinking about their suffering and their desire for happiness, then slowly but surely there should be some arising of love and compassion for them. So you can just gently bring your mind back into the room and open your eyes. So that was very abbreviated, that meditation, but it flows on from the breathing. So when you've got a little bit of stability from the breathing meditation, you can do these other meditations, these more analytical meditations, and they'll become easy because they're a little bit more free association. So you're in control of it. So if it gets uncomfortable, bring yourself back to the breath. If you want to explore more, you can. So that's very good. And a friend of mine, she said that she had this sort of not a good relationship with her sister-in-law. You know, that they'd struggled to get on, and so she did the meditation with her sister-in-law as the object, and she found that her sister-in-law was suffering, like she felt that, and so the compassion arose in her. And then that was in the meditation, but then out of that she reached out to her sister-in-law and didn't bite back when the sister-in-law, snapped, whatever, and she was able to get past that, and they developed a much closer relationship over time, rather than being reactive and, well, she doesn't like me and I don't like her, so that was very good. So that was just the outcome of that type of meditation. So it's very good. So we'll do the dedication for the people we spoke about before. So I'll read this out in English. So, and you can think about that, the dedication. So you've generated all this good merit over the past hour. So we're directing it or locking it away, if you like. So, may I quickly become Guru Lord Buddha and lead each and every sentient being into his enlightened realm because of these merits. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen never diminish but increase more and more. Okay, all right. Well, thank you, everyone. It's 9 o'clock, so tea and biscuits or cake or something in the cake, tea and cake in the coffee lounge. It's okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.